I fasted for 4 weeks. Absolutely no food, only water for 4 weeks. I'm going to tell you all about it. My name is D-Base, and it's May 19th, 2024. Now, I'm going to give you some before pictures and some after pictures, and I'm going to tell you what I did every step of the way. Now, I say water only, but technically, I also drank a little bit of coffee and some extremely watered down juice. I also chewed some gum about 1 time per day. Most of those have about 5 calories. And I took some supplements. Most of those were 0 calories, although some of them did have some calories in them. Those supplements were in powder form, and you would dissolve them into water. And it included things like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, sodium, potassium, things like that. Unfortunately, because of the nature of what I was doing during this fast, I couldn't weigh myself every day, but I started at around 220 pounds. And I'm going to show you some full body pics of before and after. You'll also be able to figure out what job I was doing during this period of time, but it was 4 weeks, almost exactly 28 days. In fact, this is how many hours it was right here, 651 hours. Now, a lot of people want to ask me the question, is it safe to fast for 4 weeks? Well, I survived. Whether you will, I can't say. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a fitness guru, but if you're interested in my journey, I'm going to share it with you right now. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a fitness guru. I'm not recommending this to you. If you want to try something like this, I strongly recommend that you talk to a doctor. The reason that I went through this fast is for a number of reasons. First of all, my appearance prior to this was, quite frankly, very embarrassing to me. I lived with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. I had a real lack of confidence. I couldn't wear the clothes that I wanted to wear. And being obese was really detrimental to me being able to lead my household and set a good example for my children. Now, exercise has never been a problem for me. I've exercised 4 to 6 days a week my entire life. I exercise regularly. I have a gym membership. My problem always was about food. And during this 28 days of fasting, the 4 weeks, I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. It was a complete surprise.
Dad.
Surprised to see me?
And I was on a business trip at the time away from my family. So when I showed back up to my family, they were very surprised with what they saw.
All right, Hex, time for a surprise party.
Now, during the 28 days, I did face a few health complications, including some cramping in both of my calves.
Cramps.
It wasn't severe. I'm not sure if it had anything to do with the fact that I was in a very dehydrated climate and that maybe I hadn't been drinking enough water because I was in the Mojave Desert for most of the time.
Here in the Mojave Desert.
But I did endure some muscle cramps and a few rashes.
Rash. That's a bad rash.
Now, as far as my history is concerned, I was very husky even as a child. I never really was able to shop in the normal clothes sections. And really, I've struggled with weight my entire life. Both of my parents were obese. My father has passed away. He had liposuction. He was quite overweight his entire life. His nickname in high school was Stump. And my mother is in her mid 80s, and she's also very overweight. So genetics has done me absolutely no favors.
Don't make excuses.
Like I said, my problem has always been too much food intake, and I can blame that on a couple of things. Number one, I am a veteran of the armed forces, and when you're in the military, sometimes you don't know when your next meal is going to come, and there's a lot of strenuous activity, and they tell you how much and when and where to eat, and it's on a very compressed time scale. That can set up a very unhealthy dynamic with food.
The food!
I served a full-time mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Washington, D.C. area in the 1990s. This helped set up a very unhealthy relationship with food. When I shipped out to Washington, D.C., the church only gives you a small amount of money for food. At the time, I was given $160 a month for food. And I remember when I very first came out to the mission field to try to share the LDS message that I went to the grocery store, and this was one of the first times that I had really ever bought food for myself. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I bought, healthy fruits and vegetables and things that I normally ate back home with my parents. And all of my mission companions were wondering, hey, why are you ordering all of this stuff? Why are you buying this? And I said, well, this is what I eat. And they go, okay. And it turned out that about 2.5 weeks into the month, all of my food was gone because buying healthy vegetables and fruits and whole grain bagels and things like that is a lot more expensive than buying ramen noodles, cereal and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I found out very quickly that I did not have enough money to eat properly as a missionary.
So hungry.
When you are a missionary for the church, often the members in the area will feed you at dinner time. And I soon learned that that was going to be the only opportunity that I would be given to have abundance of food and have the vitamins and minerals that I need. And it set me up to start eating a lot more than I normally would have, or I normally had done in the past at dinner time meals. I would really pack it in because I knew if I didn't, I wouldn't have enough food to be able to get me through the month. And it set up another unhealthy dynamic with food.
You're eating too much dairy.
Now, I've come to find out since that time that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had about $7 to $10 billion in its clandestine illegal hedge fund known as Ensign Peak Advisors during that time. So at the same time that I was paying approximately $400 per month to be a missionary, and the church was giving me only $160 for food, the church had $10 billion in its investment fund.
That's outrageous.
We've only just learned that in the last few years. It wasn't widely known at the time. So my unhealthy relationship with food was set up by the church not giving me enough money to fundamentally eat as a human being. And that still really boils my blood to this day.
Get over it.
No, you get over it.
Another thing that has led to my difficulties with food is the fact that I was raised by an absentee father who was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and he set absolutely no boundaries up for almost anything in my life, and that includes food. And that, of course, has done me no favors. Now, during this 28 days, I ate absolutely no food whatsoever. I had some supplements, I chewed some gum, and occasionally I had a little bit of coffee or some very watered down juice when water wasn't available. What made it especially challenging was that I was seeing people eating food all around me in very close quarters condition, eating pizzas, eating Chinese food, eating all kinds of yummy things, and it was hard to escape. It was certainly a test of willpower.
I don't like people watching me eat.
Now, sometimes I would question myself and say, gee whiz, why can that person eat that food right now? And they're thin or they're skinny. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
And the way that I answered that question was the fact that I had already eaten that meal. I was quite overweight when I started this adventure, and I still have a few more pounds left to lose. So I can't blame it on that person. I need to look within myself. I already ate that meal. I probably ate it months ago. So it's not fair to say, well, how come they get to eat and I don't? Because I had already stored that food as body fat.
Fat.
Now, there's many other people on YouTube and blogs out there who have done water fasting for prolonged periods of time. And one of my favorites is Finally Fasting with Jerome. I just want to play one clip of his. Jerome's journey is a lot like mine. He has a difficulty with portion control, but he is pretty good at fasting. And he's the one who really gave me the inspiration. So shout out to Jerome out there. Thanks for everything, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Now I'm putting up onto the screen here the body mass index of both the before and after. And you can see that the before body mass index is quite high, in excess of 30. That's not just overweight, that's obese. And you can see that the BMI on the right that has come down significantly.
I'm not fat!
I've learned a lot about myself during this process. It's really a matter of inner will. And it reminds me of that Tom Hanks movie, Captain Phillips, where Tom Hanks plays Captain Phillips and his supply ship is overrun by Somali pirates. And after Tom Hanks loses control of the ship, he has this interaction with the pirate.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
And that's why I'm saying the human mind is capable of so much. I am the captain of this bag of bones and this carbon-based life form. I control it. It doesn't control me. I'm the captain of my destiny. And I proved that to myself for this 4 weeks.
Captain, my captain.
Now, during these 28 days, it was 28 days, both the first and the last day were partial days. So you could say 27 and a half. I just call it 4 weeks. I had serious caloric expenditures. I wasn't just laying around working from home. I was really exerting myself, walking, running, carrying around heavy things, including backpacks and other things, getting in and out of vehicles. I occasionally found those things to be difficult, as you might imagine. And you do wonder, or I guess I wondered, where the energy came from. But of course, the body is in ketosis at this point, and it's going to find the ketones to further power this organism.
I need fuel.
I can achieve so much more than I thought. I mean, the human mind is incredible. I can accomplish almost anything that I put my mind to that's reasonable.
I can do anything.
Now let's talk a little bit about what it felt like. The true hunger pains that all of us are very familiar with, those leave after just a couple of days, and it's replaced by what you might call an emptiness or even a somewhat bitter feeling in the stomach. I definitely made sure to stay as hydrated as I possibly could during the course of the 4 weeks. And I certainly had a few headaches, as some people have reported in fasting before.
Headaches.
Some folks think that fasting affects their sleep, but I have a good history of fasting, as I'm going to explain to you here in a moment, and I don't think it had much effect on my ability to sleep. What I learned is that I need to put any excuses behind me. Blaming things on my parents, blaming things on bad genes, that's really not the solution. Was I dealt a poor deck when it comes to the genetics of my BMI? Probably so. Does it do any good to try to blame things on that? Absolutely not one bit of good. And I've also had many times in the past where I've tried dieting or exercising and have failed to reach my goals. The most important thing for me is to leave the failures behind you, because every day is a new day. The arrow time only moves one direction, and that's forward. It does not matter how many times that I failed. It only matters what I'm going to do going forward, which reminds me of that Sylvester Stallone clip from Rocky.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying,
There's been many studies that have looked at people who are fasting, and they almost always come up with the same conclusion, that fasting is incredibly beneficial for the human body. We're really evolutionarily designed for fasting. I mean, we only, as a species, industrialized grain about 10,000 years ago. Prior to that, we were all hunter-gatherers. And when there was a lot of fruits and nuts around, we gorged ourselves. And then when they weren't around, we fasted. Same when we were on the African savannah 70,000 years ago and we were hunting. There was no ability to refrigerate that prey. Sometimes we would catch something and we would feast. Then days would go by where prey was elusive and we would fast. We're really designed for that type of interaction with food, not the 3 meals a day that we've become accustomed to in our industrial Western society.
And they get 3 meals a day.
Now, my waist size dropped about 4 inches during this time, which is obviously good. It went from 38.5 down to 34.5, 4 inches in 4 weeks. That was really a nice surprise. And another reason that I did it, honestly, was for the views. I did it for the memes. I did it for you, the viewers out there. I was thinking about you and whether I could get this video to 10,000 views. If you can hit the like, hit the subscribe, and the notification bell. Let's try to get this video to 10,000 views. That's what I was thinking about out there when I was truly suffering. Which reminds me that, a Buddhist philosophy is that life is all about suffering. I endured an incredible amount of suffering during that 28 days, but I've emerged on the other side better, stronger than ever.
I am strong.
I feel like I've accomplished something that perhaps none of my millions of evolutionary ancestors ever accomplished, because prior to 10,000 years ago, there was almost no ability for one of my ancestors to get obese. There just wasn't enough food that's available. There was no ability to store it, and you had to work daily for your food. becoming obese was almost impossible. So prior to 10,000 years ago, were any of my ancestors at a 31 BMI? I would highly doubt it.
I doubt it.
Now, in the last 10,000 years after we industrialized grain, then we had the ability to eat a lot of refined foods and processed foods, especially since the Industrial Revolution in the last 200 years. Our Western culture and diet has become very harmful. The people who become obese in this type of environment, which is generally where I'm from in the United States, few of them either have the will or the desire to fast 28 days in a row. So I really think that I may have accomplished something that absolutely not one of my ancestors either had the opportunity to or had the willpower to do so. And that kind of makes me feel a little bit special.
Bragging, sir.
I mean, how many people out there can actually say that they've done something that absolutely not one of their ancestors has done? Another reason that I did this is that I really wanted to surprise my family, especially my wife. I didn't tell her about my fasting at all. I told no one. So when I showed back up at the airport, at home, it was a great surprise to her and everyone else. Now, what you're seeing now is a picture of myself that I took every single day for the 4 weeks. And you will see that I am definitely affected by the wind and the sun because I was outside in very hot and dry conditions. And this photo montage is you're seeing the before and the after. And you kind of have to disregard the fact that there's a lot of wind chap on my lips and that I'm getting a little bit sunburned. But you can definitely see, especially in these face shots, that the weight is melting away. You know, I've always made excuses for many things in my life, but this is a small step in me taking control of my destiny. You know, I'm really short. I'm only 5'7", which is pretty short for a North American male. And I've really lacked a lot of confidence in my own self and in personal appearance for as long as I can remember. And I really just wanted to stop feeling sorry for myself. And as Peter Bleakley, who is a guest on this podcast when I'm not talking about my own personal struggles with weight, has said, we need to take back control of our lives. Let's imagine for a moment that you're at least 20 pounds overweight and someone were to offer you $1 billion to water fast for 28 days or for 4 weeks. Could you do it? I think the vast majority of you out there would have little difficulty in completing that assignment as long as you had enough weight to spare, which most people do. So for me, it was really about setting up a mental paradigm where I'm paying myself $1 billion to fast for 4 weeks. Some of the biggest temptations for me were beef jerky, coffee creamer, and hot meals, especially Chinese food, hamburgers, and steaks. When I was around the aromas from these foods, especially during the latter half of the fast, it really drove me crazy. Your nose goes into overdrive because your brain is telling you to find food, and it uses your nose to do that. I could smell food from a long way away. Perhaps this is a little bit about what it's like to be pregnant, although
I wouldn't know.
I really started to notice a difference in my face after about 6 days. This fast has given me an opportunity to achieve a new outlook on life, really a fresh perspective, a second chance. And while you're fasting, you can achieve a remarkable clarity of thought. I have a previous history of doing fasting. This isn't my first fast. I fasted 3 times for periods of 7 days. My first 7-day fast, that was my goal. I wanted to hit 7. The second 2 7-day fasts were actually failures where I was wanting to get to 10 days. So during my 4-week fast, once I hit my personal best of past 7 days, say to about 10 days, I started really questioning myself whether I was going to make it the entire time. And it was really days 10 through 13 that were mentally the most challenging because I felt like once I got past the halfway point that I would be able to make it. So it was really about day 10 where I said, you know what? I've got a personal best here. I've done pretty well. Few people have gone to 10 days. You can just give it up, D-Days. You don't need to go the full 28. And that was the real struggle. But once I hit 14, honestly, the rest of it, I was in cruise control. I knew I was going to make it. It was just a mind shift that I really just flipped a switch in my mind, and I knew I was going to make it.
I'm going to make it.
I also wanted for the first time in my life to really experience true hunger. And you do not get there at 7 days. That's not enough to get there. I think it takes a long period of time to experience the fundamental human feeling that we all have of true hunger. And I finally felt it during this fast. And honestly, it was a spiritual experience. I'm still coming down off of the high, of having such a long fast. And I know this may sound trite to you, and for those of us who have grown up in a Western style culture with plenty of means, you can feel yourself being hollowed out in the face and in the body as the body eats itself alive. I lost almost 40 pounds during this fasting journey, 37 pounds to be precise from the scale reveal, as you will see here.
Wait, get your hand up. Nice. 183. Let's go.
And from that 37 pounds, probably 13 of it was muscle. So I definitely lost some muscle here along the way. And I needed to go back into the gym the next day to put some muscle back on. That's going to take me a couple of weeks to build that muscle back up. The trick, of course, is to make sure you rebuild muscle without adding fat. And I know this may sound a little odd to you, but in some ways, I was really looking death in the face because you can feel death stalking you a little bit during a 28-day fast. Now, the Grim Reaper was still very far away from me. I never came anywhere close to putting myself in danger. But at least I was in the same football field as the Grim Reaper, maybe for the first time in a long time. And he is obviously stalking all of us. And in some ways, we put him off and we don't face death. At least most of the people that I'm around here in Northern Virginia do not face it on a frequent or even an occasional basis. But this time, I did. I was looking at him and he was looking at me, saying to me, D-Base, if you don't eat, I will tap you on the shoulder. And it's a way of looking at the Grim Reaper and telling him that it's not his time. I know that may sound dark and that may sound a little disturbed, but it's a way of coming to grips with my own eventual reality of death and saying that it's not my time yet. It's a way of flexing control over the universe, really, and of our natural evolutionary backgrounds. As they say, the only thing that is true in life is death and taxes. It was nice to see that Grim Reaper, and it was nice to see him go. Now, I do plan on sustaining this newfound weight loss by fasting every Tuesday and Thursdays. Just twice a week, I think, will be enough to keep myself from losing back all of the gains that I had. And going back to the gym will certainly help me maintain those gains. Now, here's a picture of me at the gym. I go to F45, which is one of my favorites. And this is what I'm going to be breaking my fast with.
Okay, this is what I'm going to break my fast with. Just some nice, yummy soup and a salad.
Okay, now let's check out the biggest moment, which is where I get to eat solid food for the first time in 28 days. It's time for the refeeding video. I'm just going to have a little bit of salad and some soup. And I'm going to start off with, this is my first food that I've had in 4 weeks. Tastes really good. And a little bit of solid food. That's it. Now, after I ate that soup and salad, boy, I was full after just a few hundred calories. You got to gradually refeed and get your organism going again. For sure, you have to avoid refeeding syndrome. But I am actually about 24 hours out from breaking up my fast, and I feel absolutely fantastic. I have a new outlook on life. And most important to me, my physical appearance has returned back to a more manageable weight for myself. I get to wear my fun clothes, my cute outfits that I have in my closet that I have not been able to wear for a couple of years. My wife said that I look like I'm 30 years old now, which is really, really great. I want to maintain these gains as much as I possibly can. My skin tone has really leveled out. A lot of little minor blemishes and other things went away. All of the aches, all of the pains, those also went away as well. There's just so many health benefits to fasting. There's everything from reducing your risk of cancer, to lowering blood pressure, to helping reduce heart disease, to reducing Alzheimer's disease possibilities. There's 100 different benefits to fasting, and I'm a big believer in fasting, and I will certainly be doing that going forward. However, I'm not going to be updating this channel with my weight. This channel is not about weight. It's about something that's totally different. So if you're reaching the end of this video, if you do want to give me a donation, or I have a Patreon out there, it's at mormonnewsroundup.org. If you want to give me a donation there, I'd be very grateful for that. But I'm not going to be keeping you updated on my fasting journey. This is a one-time video, so I hope you really enjoyed it.
You're still here?
It's over.
You're still here? You must want to hear about Mormon news. I understand. I'm a big Mormon news fan myself. Let me fill you in with some of the things that are going on. I know I didn't have any live episodes for this last couple of weeks, and for that, I'm sorry about that. I was on a business trip. There was just no way I could keep up with it. I don't talk much about myself on this particular channel because this channel is not about me. It's about contemporaneous LDS news. Perhaps this little departure to give you a sneak peek into some of my life and some of my challenges will help humanize me. I'm not sure. While I was gone, my views fell off a cliff. I used to get almost 10,000 views per video, and now I'm just getting a few hundred. I certainly hope that that will return. Having the Mormon newscast come into the contemporaneous LDS podcasting sphere has done me no favors. There's absolutely no ill will between me and them. The internet is a great marketplace of ideas, and let the best show win. Let the best show win.
It's going to be me.
And a couple of other things to be honest about. Looking skinnier will help the Mormon News Roundup channel because actually looks matter more than a lot of people think. Mediocre content by incredibly beautiful people will receive many more views than brilliant content by mediocre looking people. That's just a fundamental fact.
That's a fact, that's a fact, and that's a fact.
But it was nice to take a break from following Mormon news so carefully just for a couple of weeks. But as I've come back and I've re-engaged with the Mormon news, I realized all along how much I love this little niche and this little podcast. The fact that you're still here means that you care about the Mormon News Roundup. I really appreciate that. That's flattering. Thanks for being here. I can't thank you, the viewers, enough for all the things that you've done to help this channel. I promise my next video on the Mormon News Roundup will be live content covering LDS contemporaneous events. I've got a great co-host on tap, and there's going to be plenty of live episodes going forward for this summer.
There better be.
If you'd like to be a co-host on the Mormon News Roundup, then drop me an email to kolob@mormonnewsroundup.org. That's KOLOB@mormonnewsroundup.org with 2 N's in there. We'd love to have you as a co-host.
I'll think about it.
A couple last thoughts on men versus women in podcasting. Like we just learned in my previous videos, I was really obese there for quite a long time. And what's amazing to me is that no one ever really called me out in the comments about my personal appearance and the fact that I needed to lose weight. And believe me, people call me out for absolutely everything. It's not like YouTube comment section that they're just holding back because they're being kind. No, they blast me continuously for my critical opinions, and I welcome that. That's great. That's what I'm here for. But no one has ever mentioned in almost 1,000 videos about my weight, even though I was obese. And that just shows to me that there is a huge difference in the LDS podcasting community about men and women and their physical appearance. Because when I have women co-hosts on the program, I frequently hear in the comment sections views about their appearance, both from men and from women. So it's interesting to me to see the difference in between how men and women are treated in society, especially when it comes to Mormon podcasting. Thanks again for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. And remember, no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing. So long.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.